Hey, Janaya, can you put that down a little bit for me? Thank you. Top of the day, beautiful people. We're trucking right along. Two. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Trina, hey girl, hey. It's Robert. Sagveinu. Good morning. I probably shouldn't say good morning, but anyway. Top of the day, beautiful people. It is a beautiful day. So we go ahead and get started. Post paste. Okay, y'all. Let's start it. Type this in. So it's already ready to go. Samuel. Alright, y'all. Let's go ahead and get started here today. Let's get started with the shimmer. Peaceful rising, Alicia. Hey, girl, hey. You say you back and ready to learn. All right. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, he is one God. And you shall love Yahuah your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuah our God, as he has promised us. Remember, y'all, when it says you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, the hand represents action. The frontlets between your eyes represents your thinking, your mind, what you meditate upon. And then you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. That is commanded your household in the ways of the most holy, divine blessings. All right, y'all. So today, y'all, it is Tuesday, April the 6th, 2021. We are on day 120 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, also known as the Old Testament, but you know, that's a misnomer, but we ain't gonna get into all that. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 789. Remember, that's only the count of the days that we're actually here reading. It does not include the Sabbath days that we are resting, right? Or the feast day Sabbath days where we are resting. We try and keep Yahuah's commands in all that we do. And plus, these bodies need rest. We've been working 6 days a week, 1 day set aside, and woosah, right? Okay. All right, y'all. So today we're reading 2 Samuel chapter 13, 14, and 15. Then we're going to hop on over here into the legends of the Jews. Auntie. Shalom. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead over here. 2 Samuel. Let's get going. First thing this morning. Okay, so it's starting off with the rape of Tamar. Remember, we definitely passed all this part Because remember when Simeon and Levi, they wanted to destroy Shechem, I mean everybody, because of this thing right here. So if you missed that or you want the details of this on everything that happened, you can actually read about this in Jasher. But you can also get way more detail in the Legends of the Jews, right? Okay. So let's start. 2 Samuel chapter 13. Now David's son Absalom had a beautiful sister named Tamar. And Ammon, her half-brother, fell desperately in love with her. Ammon became so obsessed with Tamar that he became ill. She was a virgin, and Ammon thought he could never have her. Now, something right here I want to point out. Remember when Joseph was in Egypt, and Pharaoh's wife, or Potiphar's wife, which is still the Pharaoh, or the king of Egypt, his wife fell in love with Joseph. It said she became so obsessed with him that she became sick, and we read about that whole fiasco, everything she tried to pull out on him to get that man to sleep with her. So this. If you've ever been obsessed with something, you will see how it takes your common sense, right? And you just begin to do all manner of ignorant things. So, and this is another thing that happened. I'll just start over because we was only at verse 2. Now, David's son Absalom had a beautiful sister named Tamar, and Ammon, her half-brother, fell desperately in love with her. Amnon became so obsessed with Tamar that he became ill. She was a virgin, and Ammon thought he could never have her. But Ammon had a very crafty friend, his cousin Jonadab. He was a son of David's brother Shemiah. One day, Jonadab said to Ammon, "What's the trouble?" Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I just realized I mixed up two stories. I mixed up the story about Dinah and Tamar. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I just realized. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. They weren't even alive at this day. So, sorry. What I was just talking about with Levi and Simeon, they was defending their sister Dinah. Forgive me. I just realized my mistake. Okay. We're talking about David's daughter, Tamar. Okay. But Amnon had a very crafty friend, his cousin Jonadab. He was the son of David's brother Shemiah. One day, Jonadab said to Ammon, "What's the trouble? Why should the son of a king look so dejected morning after morning?" So Amnon told him, "I am in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." "Well," Jonadab said, "I'll tell you what to do. Go back to bed and pretend you are ill. When your father comes to see When your father comes to see you, ask him to let Tamar come and prepare some food for you. Tell him you will feel better if she prepares it as you watch and feeds you with her own hands." So Ammon lay down and pretended to be sick, and when the king came to see him, Amnon asked him, "Please let my sister Tamar come and cook my favorite dish as I watch. Then I can eat it from her own hands." So David agreed and sent Tamar to Amnon's house to prepare some food for him. When Tamar arrived at Amnon's house, she went to the place where he was laying down so he could watch her mix some dough. Then she baked his favorite dish for him. But when she set the serving tray before him, he refused to eat. "Everyone, get out of here," Amnon told his servants, so they all left. Then he said to Tamar, "Now bring the food into my bedroom and feed it to me here." Like, I would have been like, this is already sounding creepy. First, you done already told David to let me feed you this with my own hands. I'm a pass, bro. Then he said to Tamar, "Now bring the food into my bedroom and feed it to me here." So Tamar took his favorite dish to him, but as she was feeding him, he grabbed her and demanded, "Come to bed with me, my darling sister." "No, my brother," she cried. "Don't be foolish. Don't do this to me. Such wicked things aren't done in Israel. Where could I go in my shame? And you would be called one of the greatest fools in Israel. Please just speak to the king about it, and he will let you marry me." Trying to be slick, Dana. But Amnon wouldn't listen to her, and since he was stronger than she was, he raped her. Then suddenly Ammon's love turned to hate, and he hated her even more than he had loved her. "Get out of here," he snarled at her. "No, no," Tamar cried. "Sending me away now is worse than what you've already done to me." But Amnon wouldn't listen to her. He shouted for his servant and demanded, "Throw this woman out and lock the door behind her." So the servant put her out and locked the door behind her. She was wearing a long, beautiful robe and was the custom in those days for the king's virgin daughters. But now Tamar tore her robe and put ashes on her head, and then, with her face in her hands, she went away crying. Her brother Absalom saw her and asked, "Is it true that Amnon has been with you?" "Well, my sister, keep quiet for now, since he's your brother. Don't worry about it." So Tamar lived as a desolate woman in her brother Absalom's house. When King David heard what happened, he was very angry, and though Absalom never spoke to Amnon about this, he hated Amnon deeply because of what he had done to his sister. 2 years later, when Absalom's sheep were being sheared at Baal-hazor near Ephraim, Absalom invited all the king's sons to come to a feast. He went to the king and said, "My sheep shearers are now at work. Would the king and his servants please come to celebrate the occasion with me?" The king replied, "No, my son. If we all came, we would be too much of a burden on you." Absalom pressed him, but the king would not come, though he gave Absalom his blessing. "Well then," Absalom said, "if you can't come, how about sending my brother Amnon with us?" "Why Amnon?" the king asked. But Absalom kept on pressing the king until he finally agreed to let all his sons attend, including Amnon. So Absalom prepared a feast fit for a king. Absalom told his men, "Wait until Amnon gets drunk. Then at my signal, kill him. Don't be afraid. I'm the one who has given the command. Take courage and do it." So at Absalom's signal, they murdered Amnon. Then the other sons of the king jumped on their mules and fled. As they were on the way back to Jerusalem, this report reached David: "Absalom has killed all the king's sons. Not one is left alive." The king got up, tore his robe, and threw himself on the ground. His advisors also tore their clothes in horror and sorrow. But just then, Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shimea, arrived and said, "No, don't believe that all the king's sons have been killed. It was only Amnon. Absalom has been plotting this ever since Amnon raped his sister Tamar. No, my lord the king, all your sons aren't dead. It's only Amnon." Meanwhile, Absalom escaped. Then the watchman on the Jerusalem wall saw a great crowd coming down the hill on a road from the west. He ran to tell the king, "I see a crowd of people coming from Horonim along the road, along the side of the hill." "Look," Jonadab told the king, there they are now. The king's sons are coming, just as I said." They soon arrived, weeping and sobbing, and the king and all his servants wept bitterly with them, and David mourned many days for his son Amnon. Absalom fled to his grandfather, Talmi, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. He stayed there in Geshur for 3 years, and King David, now reconciled to Amnon's death, longed to be united with his son Absalom. Next chapter, 2 Samuel chapter 14. Joab realized how much the king longed to see Absalom, so he sent for a woman from Tekoa who had a reputation for great wisdom. He said to her, "Pretend you are in mourning, wearing mourning clothes, and don't put on lotions. Act like a woman who has been mourning for the dead for a long time. Then go to the king and tell him the story I'm about to tell you." Then Joab told her what to say. When the woman from Tekoa approached the king, she bowed with her face to the ground in deep respect and cried out, "O king, help me." "What's the trouble?" the king asked. "Alas, I am a widow," she replied. "My husband is dead. My 2 sons had a fight out in the field, and since no one was there to stop it, one of them was killed. Now the rest of the family is demanding, 'Let us have your son. We will execute him for murdering his brother. He doesn't deserve to inherit his family's property. They want to extinguish the only coal I have left, and my husband's name and my family will disappear from the face of the earth.' Leave it to me," the king told her. "Go home, and I'll see to it that no one touches him." "Oh, thank you, my lord the king," the woman from Tekoa replied. "If you are criticized for helping me, let the blame fall on me and on my father's house, and let the king and his throne be innocent. If anyone objects," the king said, "bring him to me. I can assure you he will never harm you again." Then she said, "Please swear to me by Yahuah, your God, that you won't let anyone take vengeance against my son. I want no more bloodshed." "As surely as Yahuah lives," he replied, "not a hair on your son's head will be disturbed." "Please allow me to ask one more thing of my lord the king," she said. Go ahead and speak, he responded. She replied, why don't you do as much for the people of Yahuah as you have promised to do for me? At that point, David knew he was taken. Shalom, shalom, Mom. She replied, why don't you do as much for the people of Yahuah as you have promised to do for me? You have convicted yourself in making this decision because you have refused to bring home your own banished son. All of us must die eventually. Our lives are like water spilled out on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But Yahuah does not just sweep life away. Instead, he devises ways to bring us back when we have been separated from him. Oh my gosh, to the preach all day long. Let me read that again. That just shook me down in my shanana. Hold on, look. Go ahead and speak, he responded. She replied, why don't you do as much for the people of Yahuah as you have promised to do for me? You have convicted yourself in making this decision because you have refused to bring home your own banished son. All of us must die eventually. All of our lives are spilled out like water on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But Yahuah does not just sweep life away. Instead, he devises ways to bring us back when we have been separated from him. I have come to plead with my Lord the King because people have threatened me. I said to myself, perhaps the king will listen to me and rescue us from those who would cut us off from the inheritance Yahuah has given us. Yes, my Lord the King will give us peace of mind again. I know you are like an angel of Yahuah in discerning good from evil. May Yahuah be with you. I must know one thing, the king replied, and tell me the truth. Yes, my Lord the King, she responded. Did Joab put you up to this? And the woman replied, my Lord the King, how can I deny it? Nobody can hide anything from you. Yes, Joab sent me and told me what to say. He did it to place the matter before you in a different light. Look, this wasn't nothing but the wisdom of the Most Holy, right? Remember how Yahuah, he didn't go giving. Yahuah is just diverse in all his ways, right? We see all kind of stories and parables he put to his people because we operate and we see in story form fashion. So when we can see the story and when we understand the story, when we own that story, now that story begins to come to life in our very own lives and we can see. That's why David, look, I must know one thing, that when she was talking, he couldn't do anything but think about all he had done and what had transpired in his own family, right? And he said to her, I must know one thing. The king replied, and tell me the truth. And him adding that, and tell me the truth, it let us all know the king knew what was up, right? David knew what was going on. I must know one thing, the king replied, and tell me the truth. Yes, my lord, the king, she responded. Did Joab put you up to this? And the woman replied, my lord the king, how can I deny it? No one can hide anything from you. Yes, Joab sent me and told me what to say. He did it to place the matter before you in a different light. But you are as wise as the angel of Yahuah, and you understand everything that happens among us. So the king sent for Joab and told him, all right, go back and bring back the young man Absalom. Joab bowed with his face to the ground in deep respect and said, at last I know that I have gained your approval, my lord the king, for you have granted me this request. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to do this early. As I go back and look, I'm like, man, that sun's shining bright. I had to remember to pull the curtain a little bit. Some mornings it's okay. Some mornings the sun just shines extremely bright. I love it, but y'all not able to see. So, okay. Then Joab went to Geshur and brought back Absalom to Jerusalem. But the king gave this order, Absalom may go to his own house, but he must never come into my presence. So Absalom did not see the king. Now Absalom was praised as the most handsome man in all of Israel. He was flawless from head to foot. He cut his hair only once a year, and then only because it was so heavy. When he weighed it out, it came to 5 pounds. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter. His daughter's name was Tamar, and she was very beautiful. Absalom lived in Jerusalem for 2 years, but he never got to see the king. Then Absalom sent for Joab to ask him to intercede for him, but Joab refused to come. Absalom sent for him a second time, but again Joab refused to come. So Absalom said to his servants, "Go and set fire to Joab's barley field, the field next to mine." So they set his field on fire as Absalom had commanded. Then Joab came to Absalom at his house and demanded, "Why did your servant set my field on fire?" And Absalom replied, "Because I wanted you to ask the king why he brought me back from Geshur if he didn't intend to see me. I might as well have stayed there. Let me see the king. If he finds me guilty of anything, then let him kill me." So Joab told the king what Absalom had said. Then at last David summoned Absalom, who came and bowed low before the king, and the king kissed him. All right, y'all, last chapter for the day, 2 Samuel chapter 15. After this, Absalom bought a chariot and horses, and he hired 50 bodyguards to run ahead of him. He got up early every morning and went out to the gate of the city. When the people brought a case to the king for judgment, Absalom would ask where in Israel they were from, and they would tell him their tribe. Then Absalom would say, "You've really got a strong case here. It's too bad the king doesn't have anyone to hear it. I wish I were the judge. Then everyone could bring their cases to me for judgment, and I would give them justice." When the people tried to bow before him, Absalom wouldn't let them. Instead, he took them by the hand and kissed them. Absalom did this with everyone who came to the king for judgment, and so he stole the hearts of all the people of Israel. After 4 years, Absalom said to the king, "Let me go to Hebron to offer a sacrifice to Yahuah and fulfill a vow I made to him. But while your servant was at Geshur and Aram, I promised to sacrifice to Yahuah in Hebron if he would bring me back to Jerusalem." "All right," the king told him, "go and fulfill your vow." So Absalom went to Hebron, but while he was there, he sent secret messengers to all the tribes of Israel to stir up a rebellion against the king. "As soon as you hear the ram's horn," his message read, "you are to say, 'Absalom has been crowned king in Hebron.'" He took 200 men from Jerusalem with him as guests, but they knew nothing of his intentions. While Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel, one of David's counselors who lived in Gilo. Soon many others also joined Absalom, and the conspiracy gained momentum. A messenger soon arrived in Jerusalem to tell David, "All Israel has joined Absalom in a conspiracy against you. Then we must flee at once, or it will be too late." David urged his men, "Hurry. If we get out of the city before Absalom arrives, both we and the city of Jerusalem will be spared from disaster." "We are with you," his advisors replied. "Do what you think is best." So the king and all his household set out at once. He left no one behind except 10 of his concubines to look after the palace. The king and all his people set out on foot, pausing at the last house to let all the king's men move past to lead the way. There were 600 men from Gath who had come with David, along with the king's bodyguard. Then the king turned and said to Ittai, a leader of the men from Gath, "Why are you coming with us? Go on back to King Absalom, for you are a guest in Israel, a foreigner in exile. You arrived only recently, and should I force you today to wander with us? I don't even know where we will go. Go on back and take your kinsmen with you, and may Yahuah show you his unfailing love and faithfulness." But Ittai said to the king, "I vow by Yahuah and by your own life that I will go wherever my lord the king goes, no matter what happens, whether it means life or death." David replied, "All right, come with us." So Ittai and all his men and their families went along. Everyone cried loudly as the king and his followers passed by. They crossed the Kidron Valley and went out toward the wilderness. Zadok and all the Levites also came along, carrying the ark of the covenant of Yahuah. They set the ark of the... Hold on, y'all. I was just thinking about something when I read this. And what I just said as I was thinking about it. Okay, hold on. Zadok and all the Levites also came along, carrying the ark of the covenant of Yahuah. They set down the ark of Yahuah, and Abiathar offered sacrifices until everyone had passed out of the city. Then the king instructed Zadok to take the ark of Yahuah back into the city. If Yahuah sees fit, David said, he will bring me back to see the ark and the tabernacle again. But if he is through with me, then let him do what seems best to him. The king also told Zadok the priest, look, here's my plan. You and Abiathar should return quietly to the city with your son Ahimaaz and Abiathar's son Jonathan. I will stop at the shallows of the Jordan River and wait there for a report from you. So Zadok and Abiathar took the ark of Yahuah back to the city and stayed there. David walked up the road to the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. His head was covered and his feet were bare as a sign of mourning. And the people who were with him covered their heads, and they wept as they climbed the hill. When someone told David that his advisor Ahithophel was now backing Absalom, David prayed, O Yahuah, let Ahithophel give Absalom some foolish advice. When David reached the summit of the Mount of Olives, where the people worshiped Yahuah, Hushai, the Archite, was waiting there for him. Hushai had torn his clothing and put dirt on his head as a sign of mourning. But David told him, if you go with me, you will only be a burden. Return to Jerusalem and tell Absalom, I will now be your advisor, O king, just as I was your father's advisor in the past. Then you can frustrate and counter Ahithophel's advice. Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, will be there. Tell them about the plans being made in the king's palace, and they will send their sons Ahimaaz and Jonathan to tell me what is going on. So David's friend Hushai returned to Jerusalem, getting there just as Absalom arrived. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. That was 2 Samuel 13, 14, and 15. And I am reading from the New Living Translation. Peace and blessings, Aliyah Kendra. Shalom, shalom. Peaceful greetings. Oh, thank you. So the version, I saw somebody ask a question the other day, what version I'm reading from. The New Living Translation. Our first time around, I read from the King James Version, and then I read from the Sefer, which the Sefer kind of restores some of the original names, but it still kind of sounds and read like the King James Version. But then I normally read from it, the King James Version, a lot. I mean, because I understand it now with the Thus Thou Art, so I'm able to translate it or whatever. But I realize some people aren't quite there, and I know some people kind of argue, well, you should only read from the KJV. I'm just like, as I grow and understand, I'm of the opinion, if you're able to go and research a word, especially if you have electronic Bibles now, where you can just kind of click on it and it'll take you back to the origins of a word. It really doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter which version you read from, but in a way, it doesn't matter which version you read from if you're a little more apt to research what you read, right? That way you don't get any kind of interpretations that was never meant to be. You can go back to the original interpretation of the text, right? And you can read it as it was in its original language, right? So, but I use the New Living Translation because it's more modern and it sounds like our language today. But what you will see me doing, what I have been doing, when I get to a part that I know has been taken out of context through all the different versions, I'll just kind of quickly hit it so we make sure everybody's trekking the same, like we're understanding the same thing. So, and I like the New Living Translation, right? It's a little more animated. All right, and you can still get the truth out of it. Okay, so we are on page 465. We're picking up with Manasseh. We ended with Hezekiah and everything that happened with him and all that good stuff. All right. Hezekiah had finally yielded to the admonitions of Isaiah and had taken a wife unto himself, the daughter of the prophet. But he entered upon marriage with a heavy heart. His prophetic spirit foretold him that the impiousness of the sons he would beget would make their death to be preferable than their life. So that's why remember yesterday we was reading, Hezekiah was going to die, Yahuah lengthened his life because he repented and stuff. And Hezekiah, Yahuah said, you need to go ahead and reproduce, have some children. But Hezekiah saw prophetically saw that if he had children, that they would be complete vagabonds, right? And it just said here that their death would be better than a life that they lived. So when Isaiah came to bring him the word again, he said, look, okay. He said, well, I know Hezekiah told Isaiah, he said, look, I know Yahuah speaks to you. I know you're his prophet and you do what he say. You don't deviate here nor there. He said, but if I'm commanded to get married, he said, at least let me marry one of your daughters, because I know you're the righteous man, and perhaps my seed will have, they at least they'll have a little more working for them, because they're descending from a righteous prophet, right? So let me marry one of your daughters. Okay, look. Hezekiah had finally yielded to the admonitions of Isaiah and had taken a wife unto himself, the daughter of the prophet. But he entered upon marriage with a heavy heart. His prophetic spirit foretold to him that the impiousness of the sons he would beget would make their death to be preferable to their life. These fears were confirmed all too soon. His two sons, Rabshakeh and Manasseh, I think I might pronounce the first one wrong, Rabshakeh, and Manasseh, showed their complete unlikeness to their parents in early childhood. Once, when Hezekiah was carrying his two little ones on his shoulders to the Bet Ha-midrash, he overheard their conversation. The one said, our father's bald head might do for frying fish. I guess Hezekiah didn't really take too kindly to that comment from his little baby child. Hold on. He overheard the conversation. The one said, our father's bald head might do for frying fish. The other rejoined, it would do well for offering sacrifices to idols. Enraged by these words, Hezekiah let his sons slip from his shoulders. Oops. That'll teach you. Watch your mouth, boy. Get on up here. Let's go. The other rejoined, it would be well for offering sacrifices to idols. Enraged by these words, Hezekiah let his sons slip from his shoulders. Rabshakeh was killed by the fall. Oops. Rabshakeh was killed by the fall, but Manasseh escaped unhurt. Better had it been if Manasseh had shared his brother's untimely fate. He was spared for naught but murder, idolatry, and other abominable atrocities. After Hezekiah had departed this life, Manasseh ceased to serve Yahuah, the God of his father. He did whatever his evil imagination prompted. The altar was destroyed, and the inner space of the temple he set up an idol with 4 spaces copied from the 4 figures on the throne of Yahuah. It was so placed that from whatever direction one entered the temple, the face of the idol confronted him. As Manasseh was sacrilegious toward Yahuah, he was malevolent toward his fellows. He had fashioned an image so large that it required 1,000 men to carry it. Daily, a new force was employed on this task, because Manasseh had each set of porters killed off at the end of the day's work. Good gracious. All his acts were calculated to cast contempt upon the Hebrews and its tenets. It did not satisfy his evil desire to obliterate the name of Yahuah from the Holy Scriptures. He went so far as to deliver public lectures whose burden was to ridicule the Torah. Ooh, let me say something. Look, so you know how the first commandment, when you read the 10 Commandments, the first 4 refer and deal directly with Yahuah, right? And the last 6 deal with you interacting with other people on the earth, your parents, how you should honor them, and within a community, and how you shouldn't steal, murder, right? Look, so one way, okay, so a few days ago, you hear me talk about the ineffable name of Yahuah, right? And if you hang out in Jewish communities, or you listen to them, or anything Jewish, Jerusalem, we're talking about the European converts that's living in the Israel, the created state of Israel right now, right? So they talk about the name, right? So they never, and this just blew my mind. I don't know where I wouldn't doubt now that those who are alive in this generation, that they are just doing it ignorantly because it was passed down, right? But here's the thing. here's what I learned. The way it's portrayed to us, and like I said, they've inherited lies too. Some of them are waking up and saying like, oh my gosh, what have we done, right? So what happens is when they replace the name of Yahuah, Yahuah said, do not take his name in vain, right? In another version, it says, do not bring my name to ruin, or do not cause my name to go to ruin, right? So did you realize by not speaking Yahuah's name, you take his name in vain, or you cause his name to go to ruin, meaning you put it away so nobody knows it, and nobody is now speaking his name? His people should know his name, right? Think about your own family. How crazy would it be if your own child never knew your name, right? And they just called you by, because mom and dad, it's a general term referring to your caregiver or your parents, those who brought you into this world, right? And even those who may not have biologically and physically brought you into the world, somebody whom you refer to as mom and dad, those whom you adore, right? Those who care for you and look out for you. Imagine how crazy and awkward it would be. Granted, when you're babies, just look at it. Ooh, y'all gotta get this. When you're babies, all you know is mom. It's our affectionate term, dada, or papa, or ma, or mom, whatever, wherever you live, wherever nation you come from, whatever your ethnic background is, madre, padre, papa, or whatever, right? Baba, whatever, right? Y'all get it. But as children get a little older, they become fascinated with the actual names of their parents, right? And most parents don't get perturbed when their child is learning their name. Matter of fact, your children actually think it's fun to call you by your name, right? And we kind of get like, hey, boy, you better put some respect. You don't call me by my name. You call me mama or call me mom. You better not call me Pam, right? But I was kind of, that used to bother me, right? It used to bother me. But now not so much, because I kind of look at things behind it, right? And as young children, they're not doing, I ain't talking about rebellious teenagers like, all right, Sarah, they doing it like, I'm gonna knock your teeth out your mouth, little girl, right? We ain't talking about rebellious teenagers, but we're talking about as you're learning, and it's like, oh, that's my mom's name. Hey, Pam. I'm like, and I just giggle and laugh. I'm like, hey, little girl, so, but it's the same way, right? Yahuah's people, as we begin to grow, we begin to understand things, and we're no longer in that childish mode of thinking. We grow up, and although we know our parents' real name, but as out of due honor and respect to them, and out of our adoration towards them, we don't, and I can see this in both ways in the way they do it, right? Just by simply, I'm like, oh, okay, so it causes me to step back just a little bit, just kind of look at it, especially people who are doing it in ignorance, right? So although I know my parents' name, I don't address them by their name because I honor them. I call them by affectionate terms like mom or dad or whatever it is, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know.
Move your mind. Move. Don't move. Don't.
Cut him.
Move, boy. Don't nobody need to know all that. Okay, so he's going through his whole little thing where he shaved his head, right? Okay. So.
I ain't shaved it. I cut him. There's a difference.
Your mind, David. All right. Okay. So, but out of respect and honor for our parents, we call them by affectionate terms, right? And so, so what happened was, as I began to see that, I was like, wait a minute. So by not speaking your name when we're teaching others about you, because it's like, if you notice the theme all the way through the Old Testament, Yahuah talks about his name, right? And how his people should know his name, and everything that they do, they should do great exploits in his name and his name alone, right? And people were fascinated with the names of different gods. So, okay, well, and even Moses said, okay, well, when I go to your people, who should I tell them when they ask, what is your name? What should I tell them? And he said, Yahuah is my name, right? And I know people, they they didn't get that far because they just see I am that I am. But if you keep reading further, he actually gives his name. My name is Yahuah forever, right? But we know Yahuah has different names like Yahweh and just different ones. His attributes, people call him and address him by his attributes. But I said all that to say that when we don't speak his name as we're getting older, it causes us a lot of times, especially if you're in the wrong circles, it causes us to be ignorant to who he really is. And it's forgotten throughout the generations. And now people are serving a God that they truly really don't know. They don't even know his name, right? So by taking his name in vain can also be translated, it is causing his name to go to ruin by not speaking his name, right? And so when we don't speak his name, it causes us to forget him. So here's the thing that Yahuah said, if you also pay attention, when you get to Zechariah and then Hosea, Yahuah talks about how he is going to turn all that around and how he is going to remove the names of Baal from his people's mouth, and he is going to cause his people to forget the names of Baal. So as I learn more and more all the generalities and things that we've attributed to the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I don't really like to use the word God a lot, but I use it for the sake to make sure y'all understand what I'm saying. But we ain't gonna get into that. But even the generalized name God has actually come from another deity that was worshipped. And somebody actually mentioned that on one of the videos yesterday. I didn't respond to it yet, but it was a really good comment and saying, did you know where this actually came from? And I actually did, but we'll talk about that when we actually get to that particular scripture in Isaiah, because Yahuah calls it out in an original text. It actually has the name of that God deity, which in Greek is Gad, like YisraEL, which is actually the it's a pagan deity that they worship, and Yahuah called him out. I believe it's Isaiah 66. I want to say it's verse 12, but don't quote me on the verse, but I definitely know it's in Isaiah 66, and Yahuah calls God out by name, or Gad. It's spelled Gad, but it's pronounced God, G-O-D, like everybody pronouncing it God. But Yahuah calls him out in Isaiah 66, and a lot of people don't catch it. And it's just like, because of all the wordplay in the English language and all the word spells, that when we read it, we completely miss it, and it causes us to forget Yahuah's name. We don't even see it anymore, and it kind of mixes in with other guys, and now we got a whole complete mixed up mess, and nobody is understanding because of the word spells in the English language. Just like when I started beginning, like I try not to say morning. I will, if people greet me, I'll greet you back in the greeting that you gave me, but understand, like, morning is also a word spell, like mourning, right? Mourning, you're going to mourn the death of somebody, and people they put twofold meanings on it, and the English language does that to keep you confused a lot. So that's why it's good, even if you can't read Hebrew, to be able to understand how to at least go back and research the original word, because a lot of words they use, even in the King James Version Bible, it has those word spells on top of them, and it leads you to believe that it means something else. But when in the original text, it never really meant that at all. Okay, so, but I digress, and I know I said all that, but wait a minute, Jeremiah. I said all that to say, when we read this part right here, talking about Manasseh and his sacrilegious behavior towards Yahuah, it said it did not satisfy his evil desire to obliterate the name of Yahuah from the Holy Scriptures. He went as far as to deliver public lectures whose burden was to ridicule the Torah. So Yahuah said, in those days when my people began to return to me, he said, we're going to do the same thing that they did to my name. I'm going to help you, and I'm going to cause you to forget the names of all these guys. And what is the better way to help people forget the names of all these false gods that we have been duped into worshiping through word spells of the English language? By, first of all, understanding that they exist. Second of all, on purpose, never speaking their names again. We're going to bring all those names and all those false gods that we have been tricked in multiple millennia into worshiping by never speaking their name again. That's why some people ask me about JC. I refuse, and for the sake of conversation, sometimes just depending on who I'm talking to, I'll say it real quick. But even then, when I say it now, I cringe inside, because Yahuah said that not another God's name should even cross our lips, right? But for the sake of teaching and explaining something, you'll rarely hear me say it now, But most of the time, if I have to say it, or if I believe that people aren't really picking up what I'm saying to them, I'll abbreviate it. I'll say JC, right? Because I'm determined to bring honor to the creator of heaven and earth, right? And to reveal the truth to people and uncover lies. And we're going to purposely cause their names to go to complete ruin and utter devastation by never, ever speaking them again, right? We only do what we do and honor the creator of heaven and earth, who has given us all life, right? And it's his breath that causes us all to walk upon the face of this planet, right? Yes, Jeremiah.
Okay. So the thing of what you're saying, I am what I am. I think nowadays a lot of people say, because in their language, the names that their gods were had meaning, but just hearing a random dude come out of nowhere, like, oh, his name is I am what I am, I will see why they think that is crazy. Like, what?
Yeah.
Who is that? Like, I can see why. So I can't really blame him. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, you are the creator.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And it's crazy because it's the English language. Really, it's really like the I don't know, the mutt of it's a big mixture of all kind of unclean terms, and it's like, and we do it ignorantly because we don't know, right? And there's a lot of grace for us all there, because for one, we all inherited lies, right? We're doing things, and when we're waking up, we're like and we're like completely shocked, like, Father, forgive me, I didn't know I was doing that. Like, I was taught that I didn't even know that. So that's why it's incumbent upon us all to do our own research and stuff. And as we grow, we'll realize our theories and our understanding and our beliefs, they change. Some people, they can't deal with change, and they want to hold you to a certain set of beliefs, and it's either this or nothing at all. I was like, well, it's going to be nothing at all with you, because I'm leaving. Goodbye. This is wrong. We out of here, right? And until you come to that point, you will always be stuck in a certain type of bondage and a certain type of religious mindset, and it's debilitating, and it's tiresome, and it's I'm just like, nah. Y'all catch me down the road. Okay. All his acts were calculated to cast contempt upon the Hebrews and its tenets. It did not satisfy his evil desire to obliterate the name of Yahuah from the Holy Scriptures. He went as far as to deliver public lectures whose burden was to ridicule the Torah. Isaiah and the other prophets, Micah, Joel, and Habakkuk, left Jerusalem and repaired to a mountain in the desert, that they might be spared the sight of the abominations practiced by the king. Their abiding place was disclosed to the king. A Samaritan, a descendant of the false prophet Zedekiah, had taken refuge in Jerusalem after the destruction of the temple, but he did not remain there long. Charges were made against him before the pious king Hezekiah, and he withdrew to Bethlehem, where he gathered hangers-on about him. This Samaritan it was who traced the prophets to their retreat and lodged accusations against them before Manasseh. The impious king sat in judgment on Isaiah and condemned him to death. The indictment against him was that his prophecies contained teachings in contradiction with the law of Moses. Yahuah said unto Moses, Thou cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. While Isaiah said, I saw Yahuah sitting upon the throne, high and lifted up. And remember, people, they be trying to trip you up on stuff, right? This wordplay. Y'all, we got to be real careful about this, right? That's right, Aliyah. Again, Isaiah compared the princes of Israel and the people with the impious inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he prophesied the downfall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. The prophet offered no explanation. He was convinced of the uselessness of defending himself, and he preferred Manasseh should act from ignorance rather than from wickedness. Ooh, that'll preach all day long, right? The prophet offered no explanation. Like when he was accusing him, you think about it, because we see this a lot. And when people take what you say out of context or they misquote you about something, they're really quick to jump to their own defense about things. And the prophet Isaiah, like, we don't ever see the prophets who Yahuah calls prophets, right, and who he spoke through, we don't ever see them defending themselves. Why? Because it wasn't their message. They were simply repeating what Yahuah had given to them to give to the people, right? But when people start defending themselves, it's a telltale sign. First of all, you're not submitted to Yah. Second of all, why do you feel the need to defend yourself when you told us these were the words of Most High? Some ain't right. These should be red flags that go off like blazing fire hot sirens, right? When people constantly make excuses and try to, oh, well, you misquoted me, that's not what I said, and this, and this, when they're trying to take up for themselves and they explain it, like, you know, that tells me right there, I'm backing out of here. I'll catch y'all later. You're a liar, right? But people don't catch that. And when we don't understand how Yahuah operates, we don't understand his character, and we don't understand the character of the prophets that he used that were completely submitted to him, we get taken by prophets who name the name of Yah, but are not really submitted to Yah. They're vagabonds. And we don't get it. And you got people that stand up and fight to the bloody death for these liars. May Yahuah keep us all, right, from becoming like that. Again, Isaiah compared the princes of Israel and the people with the impious inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he prophesied the downfall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. The prophet offered no explanation. He was convinced of the uselessness of defending himself, and he preferred Manasseh should act from ignorance rather than from wickedness. However, he fled for safety. When he heard the royal bailiffs in pursuit of him, he pronounced the name of Yahuah. Look, remember, we read over a lot of this. Every time they actually said the name of Yahuah, Yahuah's people should know his name. He said, and by this name of Yahuah, we shall be saved. Oh, that was the point I was trying to make earlier. When the Jewish people, they say the ineffable name, it's like they're portraying to us that they're showing honor by not speaking his name because it's so holy. But in times of trouble, when we know his name and we know the power that it carries, we should be able to speak his name and get immediate results for our life and for whatever situation we find ourselves in, right? Look, but the way they do it, they call the creator of the earth, the creator of the earth, the name, and they give him general terms. And it's like, okay, well, what is his name? Oh, it's so holy we can't speak it. We can't even tell you. Like, because they're bringing his name to ruin, right? Let's look and see what happened with Isaiah. There's multiple examples of Yahuah's people speaking his name, not the pagan deity names that they've given us to worship, and one particular name that's running rampant throughout the church world. That is not the name, right? Okay. He was convinced of the uselessness of defending himself, and he preferred Manasseh should act from ignorance rather than from wickedness. However, he fled for safety. When he heard the royal bailiffs in pursuit of him, he pronounced the name of Yahuah, and a cedar tree swallowed him up. The king ordered the tree to be sawn in pieces. When the saw was applied to the portion of the bark under which the mouth of Isaiah lay concealed, he died. His mouth was the only vulnerable part of his body, because at that time, when he was called to his prophetical mission, it had made use of contemptuous. Oh, yeah, that's right. We read about that. Okay, let me read that again. Okay. His mouth was the only vulnerable part of his body, because at the time when he was called to his prophetical mission, it had made use of the contemptuous words, a people of unclean lips, regarding Israel. So remember, and this is what it's talking about when he was talking about when Manasseh was saying, well, he said this, but he called Yahuah's people this, right? Remember, he said, I saw Yahuah high and lifted up on his throne, this whole fiasco that was going on with King Uzziah, right? Because when Isaiah, he used his lips, he said, I am unclean and I stand in the midst of an unclean people. And Yahuah said, oh, wait a minute. First of all, these my people. Talk about yourself, but don't talk about them. Matter of fact, the title of the video that we talked about that on when we read that, I gave that the title, I can talk about them, but you can't, right? So Yahuah knew his people, they got the tendency to be vagabonds and rebels sometimes. He said, but I deal with them, but don't you dare go put your mouth on them, right? And that's what Isaiah did. And Isaiah was a prophet called by Yah. He said, I am a man of unclean, because he saw the holiness and the glory of Yahuah. And in his mind, he thought, oh my gosh, I dare not come near. You know, he said, I am unclean and I come from a people of unclean lips, right? His heart was in the right place, but Yahuah took offense to that, right? And the way we read it and the way it's taught to us is like, oh yeah, he's most, no, Yahuah took offense to that. Because he said, you need to be mindful of what you say and what you say about my people, right? He didn't even play with Moses with it, right? They went back and forth a lot of time. Oh, now they my people. Oh, now, you know, y'all know the story. Look. When the saw was applied to the portion of the bark under which the mouth of Isaiah lay concealed, he died. His mouth was the only vulnerable part of his body, because at that time when he was called to his prophetical mission, it had made use of the contemptuous words, a people of unclean lips, regarding Israel. Isaiah died at the age of 120 years by the hands of his own grandchild. Yahuah is long-suffering, but in the end, Manasseh received the deserved punishment for his sins and crimes. In the 22nd year of his rulership, the Assyrians came and carried him off to Babylon in fetters, him together with the old Danite idol, Micah's image. In Babylonia, the king was put into an oven which was heated from below. Finding himself in this extremity, Manasseh began to call upon God after God to help him out of his straits. As this proved inefficacious, he resorted to other means. I remember, he said, my father taught me the verse, when thou art in tribulation, if in the latter days thou shalt return to Yahuah thy God, and hearken unto his voice, he will not fail thee. Now I cry to Yahuah. If he inclines his ear unto me, well and good. If not, then all kinds of gods are alike. The angels stopped up the windows of heaven, that the prayer of Manasseh might not ascend to Yahuah. And they said, Yahuah of the world, art thou willing to give gracious hearing to one who has paid worship to idols and set up an idol in the temple? If I did not accept the penance of this man, Yahuah replied, I should be closing the door in the face of all repentant sinners. Blessed be the most holy, right? Yahuah is good to all. He said, if I should close up the door from hearing his prayer, then I would have to do it for all those who decide they want to stop living wrong and want to turn to me. He said, I will have to ignore the repentance cries of everybody. And Yahuah said, I ain't doing that. Man, it's a good thing that he is the most holy and we not. Because when we get pissed, we killing everybody. We want to condemn everybody to hell and to a life without the most holy. Yahuah said, I'm good to the good and to the evil, right? I'm good to the just and to the unjust. Yahuah, let me go back. Let's hold on. Listen, I'm going to just read this again. Yahuah is long-suffering, but in the end, Manasseh received the deserved punishment for his sins and crimes. In the 22nd year of his rulership, the Assyrians came and carried him off to Babylon in fetters, him together with the old Danite idol, Micah's image. So they made an image of a god in the prophet Micah. They made an image of him, and they began to worship that, right? In Babylonia, the king was put into an oven which was heated from below. Finding himself in this extremity, Manasseh began to call upon God after God to help him out of his straits. As this proved inefficacious, he resorted to other means. I remember, he said, my father taught me the verse, when thou art in tribulation, if in the latter days thou shalt return to Yahuah thy God and hearken unto his voice, he will not fail thee. Now I cry to God. Now I cry to Yahuah. If he inclines his ear unto me, well and good. If not, then all kinds of gods are alike. And so he was saying, look, I didn't call out, I'm calling on Buddha, help me, whatever. Every name he could go through, he was going through the list. And when he realized that none of them was helping, he remembered what his father taught him. So he said, listen, there's only one more God I can call. And he has been proclaimed as the only living God. He said, if I call out to him and he don't answer me, then all gods are alike. There are no gods, right? Look. I remember, he said, my father taught me the verse, when thou art in tribulation, if in the latter days thou shalt return to Yahuah thy God, and hearken unto his voice, he will not fail thee. Now I cry to Yahuah. If he inclines his ear unto me, well and good. If not, then all kinds of gods are alike. The angels stopped up the windows of heaven, that the prayer of Manasseh might not ascend to Yahuah. And they said, Yahuah, Lord of the world, art thou willing to give gracious hearing to one who has paid worship to idols and set up an idol in the temple? If I did not accept the penance of this man, replied Yahuah, I should be closing the door in the face of all repentant sinners. Yahuah made a small opening under his throne of glory. Very good. Okay, do me a favor. Keep quiet for a few minutes. I'm almost done, okay? Thank you. Yahuah made a small opening under the throne of his glory and received the prayer of Manasseh through it. Suddenly, a wind arose and carried Manasseh back to Jerusalem. His return to Yahuah not only helped in his distress, but also brought him pardon for all his sins, so that not even his share in the future world was withdrawn from him. The people of this time were attracted to idolatry with so irresistible a force that the vast learning of Manasseh, who knew 52 different interpretations of the book of Leviticus, did not give him enough moral strength to withstand its influence. Oh, my gosh. Knowledge puffs up. That's what I remember, right? He had 52 different interpretations of the book of Leviticus, but even that didn't keep him from his erroneous lifestyle, right? Ooh. Rab Ashi, a famous compiler of the Talmud, once announced a lecture on Manasseh with the words, tomorrow I shall speak about our colleague Manasseh. At night, the king appeared to Ashi in dreams and put a ritual question to him, which the rabbi could not answer. Manasseh told him the solution, and Ashi, in amazement at the king's scholarship, asked why one so erudite had served idols. Manasseh's reply was, Hast thou lived at my time? Had thou lived at my time, thou would have caught hold of the hem of my garment and run after me. Ammon, the son of Manasseh, surpassed his father in wickedness. He was in the habit of saying, my father was a sinner from early childhood, and in his old age he did penance. I shall do the same. First I shall satisfy the desires of my heart, and afterward I shall return to Yahuah. Indeed, he was guilty of more grievous sins than his predecessor. He burned the Torah. Under him, the place of the altar was covered with spider webs, and as though of purpose to set at naught the Hebrew religion, he committed the worst sort of incest, a degree more heinous than his father's crime of a similar nature. Thus he executed the first half of his maxim literally. For repentance, however, he was given no time. Death cut him off in the fullness of his sinful ways. Whew. Yikes, right? A lot of people run around here with that mindset, oh, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to sow my royal oats, I'm going to do all I need to do. And once I get up in my old age, then I'll go ahead and settle down and I'll serve Yahuah. But now I'm young. Let me live and do what I need to do here in this earth. It's too much fun to be had, right? You can have fun, but you ain't got to be a vagabond. You can live a upstanding, clean, wholesome life. And you don't necessarily have to be a square or somebody that's super overly religious because you live a life of purity, right? And a lot of time when we look at like the output of the media, people who live good lives or righteous lives or holy lives or lives that we need to be more like you, right? And when I say that, it means that they don't purposely try to get over on people. They don't cheat people. They literally love people as they love themselves. Like if you love yourself, right? Because if you love yourself, you're not going to harm yourself. And if you love yourself, you're not going to harm anybody else, all right? So we're talking about that. But in the world we live in today, everything is flipped around backwards. Like evil is good and good is evil. And good is looked upon as that is not the thing to do. You were, you eating up with the latest fashions, you all this stuff. It portrays this image to people like that's not really what you want to do till you get old and you and your husband Earl you only got a few years left. That's what you do when you and Earl get older, right? It is not that way. People who come out of like horrible mindsets like that realize, man, you know what? It's pretty cool to live a clean, wholesome life. Like you can go about each day without regrets. Not that you will never have any regrets for anything, because none of us are perfect. But you get what I'm saying, right? You can walk through your life. You don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder. You're not having all this deep depression on stuff because you've been inundated with false images and things. Or this is how it should be, and this is how you should look, and this is what you should wear. It dumbs down, and it kind of begins to cover up the creativity that Yahuah has given each individual mind for their own lives and to bring into the world, right? They're trying to put you into this mold. Everybody wears white and black, and this is what we do here, and this is the best way to be. And I'm just like, once I broke out of that, I was like, I ain't never going back to that. I like colors and stuff. I like colors of the rainbow, but sometimes it's like, man, I can't wear all the colors of the rainbow together because somebody gonna think, I might be something else and I'm really not, so it's just all this crap that they've taken wholesome things and make it's like, man, you're portrayed one way and it's like, oh no, let me take this rainbow stuff off. I'm gonna have to wear solid colors, maybe not all 7 of them together, maybe 2 or 3 colors we can mix and match, but we can't wear all the colors together. And I think all the colors together are beautiful, right? But y'all get what I'm saying. But anyway, y'all, let me go ahead because we already at the hour and 7-minute mark, and I gotta get out of here. We got stuff to do. I know y'all gotta get to work, and I don't want to hold y'all up. Now y'all gotta go to work, people. Remember, I say it all the time. If I happen to be a little bit long-winded for today, you gotta go to work. Go to work. This is recorded. Come back later, right? Okay, so let me make my page marker. Okay, y'all, so that was Legends of the Jews, page 465 to 466. And like I said earlier, we read 2 Samuel 13, 14, and 15. It is Tuesday, April the 6th, 2021, day 120 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 789. And remember, that is without the Sabbath days and the feast days. Sabbath days added in. Why? Because we rest on those days. We got 6 days to work. 1 day we rest. Just stay in the bed all day if you want to. Just rest your body, rest your mind, rest your soul. Cook everything the day before. So if you got a bunch of kids running through the house like I do, prepare everything the day before. So all they got to do is either heat it up in the microwave or just stick it in the oven. But you ain't got to be slaving all day, right? Just rest. Leave me alone. Get out of here, right? Okay, y'all, so let's do the blessing real quick. I'm going to check real quick because I seen a couple comments come up. I don't know if y'all was asking a question or what. Okay. So remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow, and the man or woman can take the Nazarite vow. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Okay. Oh, I saw your comment. Leisha, the mud language. I got 2 leashes up here today. It's spelled different, but it sounds the same. Ooh, that we kind of talked about that today in the English language. 2 words that are different. In this case, we got 2 different people. You pronounce their name, Leisha, but they're spelled differently, and they're 2 different people. It's a perfect example. of all the rigmarole going on in the English language and all the word spells and stuff. You got things that sound the same, but they have different meanings or different ones. Okay, let me check over here. Comments. Okay, that wasn't a comment to me. Oh, no, I guess it is. Shalom. Are you part of the Elder Thomas and Mother Gina tribe? YisraEL. I don't even know who that is. Elder Thomas and Mother Gina tribe. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be, but I've never heard those names. I mean, I've heard those names, but as you put it, I don't know who that is. I don't know. Maybe somebody that's wrapping their hair like this. Look, y'all. I've been looking at videos of head wraps and stuff, trying to do different things. Like yesterday, I know I want my head wrapped like this, but I came down here to start my computer and I had it up in another wrap action, because you know sometimes I wear it up or a back, a different kind of head wrap, but I took a liking to this one, so I don't know. Maybe you see the head wraps. I don't know. You kind of put us together. I don't know, but no, I'm not a part of that tribe. I don't even know who that is. But I have Aliyah, you in the Yahuah tribe. Yes, all day, every day. Yahuah alone. Yeah, I'm not a part of anybody's and look, I ain't trying to be, when I'm saying I'm not a part of anybody, like groups like churches, or broken off sects of people, you know, congregations. I'm not a part of any of those things, right? I used to be. I'm not a rogue person. I literally, I just like to learn how to hear the voice of Yahuah myself, right? I've been in too many of them because, look, hear me when I say this, y'all. People are at different levels of understanding and learning, but because, no offense taken, but a few different places where I've transitioned through, simply because I'm not saying I do more than most people, but because how I study and I'm constantly looking up stuff and I'm checking everybody what they say to me now. I'm like, what you just said? Let me write that down. Hold on, I'm gonna go back and check it. That something don't sound too kosher about that. So I'm checking everything, and as I go to check things and I'm looking up stuff, I realize, wait a minute, hold on. So my knowledge tended to grow a lot faster than the people I was around, to where it's like, and if you go to ask questions, it's like, what are you talking about, huh? I'm like, well, this here is, you know, and it's like when you sit in a place where you know the most, and it's like everybody wants to sit, and it's just like, yeah, this is what we're talking about. It's just like it becomes uncomfortable, and it's like you're pushed out of there because there's no more growth there for you, because you know more. Not saying that you know, get what I'm saying. I'm not saying being big head or anything, but your understanding has grown higher, and it's, you stay there like, okay, they're gonna catch on, but some people, they just don't grow as fast, and that's okay. Everybody has their own mode of growth, but no. I said, no, I'm not a part of their tribe. You know, I visit with different people and stuff, but I don't call myself a part of anybody's tribe. Like, I know some people, they do their videos, they start, I want to honor the elders of such and such tabernacleness. I've never done that. I've always, not that I had issue with people that did it. Okay, you want to honor those who teach us. Okay, I get that. But I ain't doing all that, because I don't know what you're doing in your private life. Like, because if your name get caught up in some kind of scandal, and all of my videos, I start my videos, I honor such and such in a congregation of this, and next thing I know, y'all in the news, and they dragging all y'all through Facebook and YouTube, and everybody doing videos, exposed. I'm like, you know what? Y'all would not drag my name in any of that. So anytime you see me, it's just me, little old me. And I say, I get my information from studying, my resources. I'm like, Father, if I'm off, you got to help a sister out. You know, help me understand this. You know, that's not saying I don't glean from others and learn from them, because I do, you know. And I learn a lot from other people. But before I start repeating what they say or sharing what, I'll go and verify the information for myself. So now I don't have to say such and such told me. Now I can give it to you in my own words and my own personality, because I have taken this information that I heard you say. I'm like, okay, and I went and I dissected it. I researched it, and I was able to glean more and learn more from this. So now when I talk about it, I can give my own personal experience of what this means and how it learned, because now I am intimate with this information, right? And it's all identifiable to me now, right? So I don't have to, not saying that you promote anybody, y'all get what I'm saying. I just want to, yeah, so yeah, it's all me. So if I get in trouble, I'm gonna get in trouble alone. If I'm rewarded, I'm gonna be rewarded alone, right? But that's like a double-edged sword too, right? Because if you get in trouble and people are following you and they're doing the same thing you do, not only do you get in trouble, but all those people you done drug along with you are getting in trouble too, right? But if you're rewarded for something you did and it was good, it was truly good, not only does that reward fall on you, but it falls on all those people who had the opportunity to learn and begin to pick up some of these good habits because they began to do them too. It's like by default, they were blessed because by default, they just happened to fall in somewhere where it was good. It was good, solid ground. So the blessing is here. The blessing flows on everybody. But when there's a curse here, the curse falls on everybody. So I'm really, really particular about that, who I listen to and running with different things. Some things are really like, oh, man, what? It catch my attention, but I'll try to go look it up first. Like if I absolutely have to tell somebody, I'll bounce it off my sister, my mama. Look, y'all, I don't know about this. This is what I just heard. That I look, help sister out because this is like, I got to look into this, right? So if I absolutely have to say something to somebody about anything, I don't want to lead anybody astray. And I know I'm not perfect. And sometimes I've come across information that I thought was true that was I found out it was not true. And if there is ever a time where that happens, and I've done that here, I'll make a correction immediately. I ain't too proud to beg to ask for forgiveness. Y'all, look, that was wrong. I'm sorry. Because when I said this, and I'll go back and pinpoint the time when I said here. Look, this, I was wrong because this is the new information I found today. Look, so now we got to adjust and fix it. So I'm sorry if anybody has like miscalculated this or misunderstood this. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll take full responsibility for that because you may not have even been looking in that direction if you hadn't heard me say it. So I want to make amends for this, right? Hey, fix it yourself before Yahuah had to fix it. And you get too far down the road and now you in complete psychosis and blindness. I don't ever want to be there, So I appreciate y'all comments and stuff and coming to talk to me. If y'all think I'm off, drop a comment. This is what you mean by that, because it make me, wait a minute, what you say? Let me double check that. Okay, but I'll go back and double check. And y'all have said a lot throughout these last 3 years and made comments where I had to go double check myself, make sure, wait a minute, hold on. They made a point there. So yeah, I never thought about that. And I'll go back and check. So that's it, y'all. Yes, definitely is the time now to hear the voice of Yahuah for ourselves. Yeah. Okay. All right, y'all. But that's it, y'all. I love y'all. And I see y'all back here bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, yeah, that's it. Enjoy your day, beautiful people. Love y'all. Peace.